Welcome into Boston Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. And look, I love keeping it positive on the channel, but what is going on with the Celtics right now? It looked like they were finding their groove in a form of consistency. Now they've lost 3 in a row, and a loss last night to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I'd make the argument the Thunder are the worst team in the NBA. And look, I know the Celtics were without Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker, but that is no excuse to play as poorly as they did in front of their home crowd. Final score in that game, 119-115. Oklahoma City in the process broke a 14-game losing streak. It's clear OKC is in tank mode right now. You look at the roster that they trotted out last night, and it was an absolute joke, yet they still were able to put together 41 fourth-quarter points, and the Celtics, on the other hand, were frigid from the floor, especially from long range. They missed 38 threes for the game, and going back to that original point of, yeah, you're without Jason Tatum, who at times has played like an MVP of late. Kemba Walker got hurt on Sunday night, missed last night's game, but even though you're without those guys and Jaylen Brown goes off, you can't lose to OKC in the manner in which the Celtics did. So I want to ask you this question because I'm a little concerned with where things are trending right now and the lack of consistency that Boston is playing with. If you think that Boston can get it together leading into the NBA playoffs with 10 games left, I want you to like this video and hit that thumbs up icon. This is where things currently stand in the Eastern Conference standings as the Celtics, they remain in 6th place, but it looked as though, okay, maybe they can get up to 4th place and catch the Knicks there, or maybe the Hawks. Obviously, nobody's going to catch up to the Nets, the 76ers, and the Bucks, but at 32 and 30, that's where the Celtics are right now, and the Miami Heat are on their tails. And I don't want to see the Celtics have to play in a play-in game because I think they're a dangerous team if they're able to play in a 7-game series. So 32 and 30 after 3 consecutive losses, 10 games left in the regular season, and it's just like this team is so up and down. So is this just who the Celtics are? Like all year we've been wondering, and we've been dumbfounded by their inconsistency. Is this just who the Celtics are? Is their identity just an inconsistent team that when you look back at the 2020-2021 season, you're just going to say, wow, they underperformed. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals a year prior, but they were never able to get it together. That's where I'm kind of leaning. But on the other hand, I hesitate in saying that because COVID and injuries have crushed this team. Like to the likes of no other team across the NBA. No other team has had to deal with COVID issues like the Celtics have, which is why they have not been able to find that continuity, find a rhythm, find that consistency. But there are also holes all across this lineup. Leading up to the NBA trade deadline, myself and Harrison Graham were saying Celtics need to find a center. They need to improve their depth. And while maybe they improved the latter with Evan Fournier and Jabari Parker, the center spot is still a vacant hole for this team. And when you look at those top 3-4 teams that we just showed you in the Eastern Conference standings, they've been, for the most part, other than the Knicks who have been streaking of late, consistent. The Celtics, on the other hand, not consistent at all. And contenders tend to be consistent. This is just an up-and-down team that can't seem to find a rhythm right now. I also want to show you this. So STRAT-O-MATIC put together a list of playoff teams who have been severely affected and hit by the injury bug as well as COVID-19 protocols, causing players to be out of the lineup. And what do you know? The Celtics are in there at number 3. So how this basically breaks down is 12 players for the Hawks have gotten hurt throughout the course of the season. They've missed a combined 248 games. The Nets, 16 players, 225 combined games, and they're the Celtics. 16 players have either gotten hurt or they've been on the COVID-19 protocol list, causing those 16 players to miss a combined 194 games. So while, yes, the Celtics are inconsistent, there are also reasons for them not being able to have that cohesiveness, as I mentioned there just a little bit ago. So, I don't know. I mean, can the Celtics win a playoff series? Anytime you have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Brad Stevens, who I still think is one of the best coaches in the league. Although some of the things that he's done this year have been maddening, I still do think that they can win a playoff series. But what do you think, Celtics fans? Can Boston win a playoff series? Get into the comments, chime in, let your emotions out, type Y for yes or type N for no. We are 1 day away from the much anticipated 2021 NFL Draft, and I am telling you right now, you do not want to miss our coverage of it here on Chat Sports. We're going to be live not just for all 7 rounds from Thursday through Saturday, but we will be breaking down every single pick. We are the most watched NFL draft coverage on YouTube. We also have the most fun. Last year, 1 million people, yes, 1 million people watched the first round of the NFL Draft right here on Chat Sports. Be one of those million who does it in 2021. I'm telling you, you just don't want to miss it. How do you get subscribed and notified as to when we're going live? You see that link down there, youtube.com/chatsportstv. If you haven't subscribed, do so right now. And if you are excited for the NFL Draft, some of you watching, Boston Celtics fans, you might be New England Patriots fans. Are they going to trade up potentially for Justin Fields if he slides? Or Mac Jones if he slides? I'm sure you're excited for the NFL Draft, especially after the Patriots had that free agency frenzy that they did. If you're pumped, if you're amped for the NFL Draft, like this video and hit that thumbs up icon. You're watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr., and in the previous weeks, I've been looking at NBA draft prospects who could be available for the Celtics when they select in the first round in July's NBA draft. And in the weeks and months leading up to the draft, we're going to continue to break down prospects. Now, we're not sure where the Celtics are going to choose in the first round. That all depends on if they make the playoffs, where they are in the playoff seeding. But I put together this list of prospects who could be available in the mid to late teens, possibly even the 20s. It includes Ziaire Williams out of Stanford, Jaden out of Tennessee, and Cam Thomas out of LSU. Let's start off by breaking down Ziaire Williams. So a lot of scouts think that he is built like a way skinnier Jason Tatum. And I think that's generous because he is built maybe like a way skinnier, like toothpick Jason Tatum. Maybe in terms of the height, 6'8", athletic, can break you down off the dribble, has a decent shooting form. Maybe you compare him to Jason Tatum in that regard, but Tatum, even when he was coming out of Duke, and of course he's added some pounds coming out of college, was much more built, much stronger. If there's a concern I have with Ziaire Williams, he has a really thin frame. I'm also not sure where to project him. Is he going to be a 3-and-D wing? Potentially, maybe that's his role right away. But I do like how he can shoot off the dribble and create off the dribble a little bit as well. And he was a 5-star recruit in his own high school class, went out to Stanford. Expectations for him were really high. And he didn't necessarily reach those expectations in terms of his stat line. He was a little inconsistent, but you saw some moments where you were like, okay, this guy can be a first-round pick. He does have to improve his shooting consistency, though. From three-point range, shot a decent, or from the field, rather, 37%, but from three, kind of alarming, 29%. But when you look at the stroke, it's somewhat natural, and I think he could develop that over time. Let's pivot to Jaden Springer now out of Tennessee. Really dynamic two-guard. He's very young. He's going to turn 19 years old in September. I think he might have been harnessed a little bit by Rick Barnes at Tennessee because he didn't put up eye-popping numbers. His shot attempts, there wasn't much volume there, but in spurts, he was really able to carry that Volunteers offense. He did shoot 43.5% from three, but only on less than 2 attempts per night. So I don't expect that percentage to translate for it to be that high, especially as the volume increases. But I do like his shooting form a little bit. And some people have thrown out some Marcus Smart comps. I know Celtics fans love him. Maybe in terms of him being a rugged, tough, bulldog type of player, but I think Jaden Springer might be able to bring the Celtics a little bit more offensive explosion, more so than Marcus Smart. Not the most bouncy and athletic guy, but very smart when it comes to his offensive arsenal, kind of knows where to get to on the floor, and he can get buckets even though he's not going to beat you and blow by you in an enormous fashion. Lastly, I want to hit on Cam Thomas out of LSU. He's one of my favorite prospects who are going to be available in the teens or 20s. Why is that? Because in the modern day NBA, you need guys who can straight up get buckets, and Cam Thomas can straight up get buckets. As a freshman last year with LSU, 23 points per game. That was good for 4th in the nation, and everything he does on the offensive side of the floor is just so smooth. Solid size, not great size at 6'4", but he's built and sturdy. And if there's one concern I have about Cam Thomas, he's somewhat one-dimensional in an offensive sense, kind of like Lou Williams. You put Lou Williams on the floor off the bench, he's going to get you buckets like Cam Thomas, but he's not really going to do anything else. Right now, Cam Thomas is one-dimensional where he brings you a lot offensively. I think his sturdiness and bulkiness can help him out defensively, but right now his main focus is on the offensive end of the floor, and he can really score it when he does have the rock in his hand. So once again, the 3 prospects that I'm highlighting on today's show: Ziaire Williams, a wing out of Stanford; Jaden Springer, a combo guard out of Tennessee; and Cam Thomas, a bucket getter out of LSU. Before we head out, I want to pose this question. Rate this list of prospects for me, all 3 of them combined, and scale it for me from 1 to 10. Excited to see what you all come up with.